Nine Noble Values podcast, where we talk to you about being a pagan in the modern times, as well as just general good morals and values for anybody to follow, regardless of your religion. So today I want to start off the podcast by talking about where the Nine Noble Values came from a little more in depth than last time. So the Nine Noble Values, otherwise known as the Odinic values, they were first codified in 1974 by Sir Oswald Mosley, and John Yowell. So they weren't the best people, and I'll be the first to admit that. There were a lot of fascists, a lot of white supremacists in those groups. But they got these values after reading through the Have 'Em All and the Poetic Eddas multiple times, and they found that these were the 9 reoccurring concepts. So these don't go back to ancient pagan times. They don't go back any farther than the 1970s. But just because of that, it doesn't mean that it's something bad to follow and listen to. So today I want to talk about courage. Courage isn't actually specifically mentioned in the Have 'Em All. Actually, in a search, I couldn't find the word courage mentioned once. I found bravery, but I also couldn't find fear. So, what is courage? What does it mean? Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is action taken despite fear. It is when you are afraid of something, but you do it anyway because you know it is the right thing to do. Men and women on battlefields, they have courage because you bet they have fear. Just standing up for yourself, being who you are, regardless of who society wants you to be. That is courage. For a lot of people, it's telling their parents and telling their family, hey, I'm a Norse pagan now. I grew up in a very Catholic household, and kind of telling my family that I wasn't a Catholic anymore. It didn't always go so well. My mom still tries to push me back to church, but that's not who I am, and it's not who I want to be. So yeah, that's courage in of itself. If you're part of the LGBTQ community, a lot of times that could be, you have to have some courage to do that nowadays because, coming out takes courage because that's something that society for a long time deemed unacceptable, and that's something that a lot of older generations deem unacceptable. Going against the modern flow pretty much it takes courage, I'm one of those guys that I'd rather spend my time in the gyms and eating right and not going out to the bars and stuff like that. So a lot of times I got to tell my friends, hey guys, I'm not going out to the bar with you. I don't want to go out and get drunk. Why? Because I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. lifting weights and sweating my ass off. Or if it's hunting season, I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. going out in the woods, freezing my ass off. And that's, I'm not going to say that's a courageous thing to do, but on the same token, it does kind of go against the modern grain, and it takes takes being able to fight off the peer pressure of, oh, well, why don't you ever come out with us? It's like, well, why don't you guys ever do anything I want to do? So the ancients, they had lots of courage. They went, they went on sea voyage trips, on raids for months at a time without knowing whether or not they were going to come back. And, so they would ever see their families again. So that obviously took courage for them to do. And the things today, just being courageous in your daily life, is just not, just being yourself. I'd say takes courage nowadays because with so many forces so many outside forces telling you need to think this way, or you need to do things this way. Why? Because that's what society tells you to do, and that's just wrong. I'll say it. It's wrong. Be who you are, but most importantly, be who you are without infringing on other people. That's something I will definitely say. It's easy to go with the flow. It's easy to say, oh, well, this is wrong because everybody else says it's wrong. Look at things through your own perspective and, make your own decisions. And don't be afraid to feel fear, because, as I said, you cannot act with courage without there being fear. Okay, sitting there saying, oh, I'm so brave. Well, no, if you're doing something that doesn't incite fear, You want to do something courageous, go do something you're afraid of doing. Be willing to challenge the status quo. Be willing to stand up for yourself and be an individual. That takes courage nowadays. So this is kind of a shorter podcast than I expected it to be. But, there wasn't really a whole lot for me to say on this topic. So I'm going to leave us with our quote of the week. This is the final quote from the Have 'Em All. Cattle die and kinsmen die. Thyself too soon must die. So I'm going to let you guys think on that and what that means and how it can be connected to today's podcast. And until next week, this is Mike, and I hope everyone